Thank you very much for your help. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the parallel session on Institutional Framework for Sustainable Development. My name is Miroslav Polzer, and I have the honor to be today the chair of this parallel session at the International Conference on Education and Governance for Sustainable Development. First, congratulations to the Black Sea Universities Network and to the UN Academic Impact Initiative for organizing such a timely event. It's really the Rio 2012 Conference on Sustainable Development will be a milestone event, and the universities should really be placed in a very prominent role in this, and today's conference will certainly help in this respect. The title of my contribution is Building the Knowledge Base for Global Governance, Our Common Intellectual Social Responsibility. I'm Miroslav Polzer, head of the Austrian Science and Research Liaison Office Ljubljana, and also Secretary General of the International Association for the Advancement of Innovative Approaches to Global Challenges. So first, a brief information of what is the Austrian Science and Research Liaison Office Ljubljana. It is, has been established 20 years ago by Austrian Ministry of Science to help the Slovenian science system to develop after the disintegration of Yugoslavia and after the fall of the Iron Curtain. There have been established initially four such offices in Central and Southeast European countries, and later 2 more have been added. And our task is to promote international scientific cooperation with Southeast Europe. The carrier organization of Austrian Science Office Ljubljana is the Center for Social Innovation in Vienna, which has a contract with the Austrian Ministry of Science regarding operating of our office. This office is going to be closed by the end of the year. Therefore, in my presentation, I will present you some of our activities that are relevant for today's topic, which we have implemented in the last few years. And but I will devote a special amount of time to present you also the plans that we have with establishing a Global Challenges Knowledge Center with the International Association for the Advancement of Innovative Approaches to Global Challenges. And this is even stronger related to Rio 2012 and sustainable development. So some brief information regarding our work in UN Studies Capacity Building in Southeast Europe. The rationale for our work was, when we look at regional cooperation in Southeast Europe, what are the topics that bring people together, where it makes most sense to work together. And of course, global challenges are the topic which unites us. We are bound as a global community by these global challenges, and therefore scientific cooperation, cooperation of universities, and also many other stakeholders makes very much sense, and we have really done a lot in this area, and I will show you more about this. And Austria in general is a leader in promoting regional cooperation in Southeast Europe and in Central, East and Southeast Europe, and therefore we have been allowed to work in this field. The broader picture of our activities is that when we look at the knowledge base for global governance, what is really needed that we effectively address global challenges, we have to look in a multi-stakeholder approach and in a multi-level governance approach. So there are several global governance stakeholders, international organizations. Of course, everybody thinks of the United Nations system when talking about global challenges, but it's also the European Union, Regional Cooperation Council, Black Sea Economic Council, and other international organizations are very relevant. Then there are national governments, local and regional public authorities, corporate sector, civil society organizations, but especially we have to be aware that every individual, every global citizen has its stake in this global governance process, and therefore should also act in a societally responsible way. And we have providers of intellectual resources, knowledge owners and producers, research institutes, higher education institutions, business, civil society, and global citizens again, as this global civil society can be a very important source for societal innovations, new approaches, and in general for knowledge management related to global challenges. And then we have providers of financial resources. We are used to think that this is something that the government should care for, public authorities, states, regions, and so. Of course, the business sector is funding its own knowledge-related activities, research activities, innovation-related activities. But there's also this third sector of philanthropists, civil society as a source for funding, for building the knowledge base for global governance is really an increasingly important topic because as we see, governments are running out of funds and out of resources, but the global civil society still has the majority of the funds worldwide. We have organized with ASA Ljubljana in summer 2008 in cooperation with the Academic Council on the United Nations System, a summer school about building the knowledge base for global governance. When you visit our homepage, you can find there more information, also some presentations of this. And this was the starting of a very intense cooperation with the Academic Council on the United Nations System. We have had in November 2009 at the Diplomatic Academy in Vienna, the conference, Can the United Nations Be Taught? The Central, East and Southeast European Regional Colloquium on Innovative Teaching for Innovative Techniques for Teaching about the United Nations System. This has been published in the Favorita paper series of Diplomatic Academy of Vienna, and it can be also downloaded from our homepage. And the next event has been last year in Belgrade, Teaching Climate Change in the United Nations System. It was in cooperation with the University of Belgrade, Academic Council on the UN System again, Diplo Foundation, and the United Nations Association of Serbia, Southeast Europe Media Organization, and a series of UN organizations like UNEP, UNIDAL, UNDP, UNESCO, VFUNA, UNESCO Venice Office, and other stakeholders. And Academic Council on the United Nations System had also its annual conference last year, related to a certain extent also to this track record of successful cooperations in the past. And we had to bring the Slovenian president, Dr. Danilo Türk, as a keynote speaker to Vienna, and we invited participants from Central and Southeast European countries to attend this event. The next event, which is related to today's conference, is that we have organized a networking meeting about the role of universities in innovation and education for sustainable development in Southeast Europe at the 5th annual conference of the Global University Network for Innovation. This is a very interesting network of UNESCO chairs over the whole world, in which especially those universities are active which regard the principle of societal responsibility of universities as a key principle. And they really look at innovative ways of engaging with the society, and therefore we brought participants from Southeast European countries to this annual conference because we thought this kind of thinking would be very beneficial for Southeast European countries as well. And now from Austrian Science Office Ljubljana to this IAAI Global Challenger Center in Klagenfurt in the context of Rio 2012. This Global Center is the rising star in which we will continue our work. So Rio 2012, what are the objectives of the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development next year? The objective of the conference is to secure renewed political commitment for sustainable development, assess the progress to date and the remaining gaps in the implementation of the outcomes of the major summits on sustainable development, and address new and emerging challenges. And there have been identified two themes that will be of primary interest. One is green economy in the context of sustainable development and poverty eradication. And the second topic is the institutional framework for sustainable development. And this is also the topic in which today's session here has to be seen. And what do the planners of the Rio 2012 conference mean by talking about the institutional framework for sustainable development? The institutional framework for sustainable development covers a spectrum of formal and less formal bodies, organizations, networks and arrangements that are involved in sustainable development policy making and implementation activities. And the aim is to have effective institutional framework for achieving effective international environmental governance. And Black Sea Universities network, for instance, such an institutional framework, and also the center that will be presented later on about the studies of the Danube Basin and Black Sea water resources is some new institutional framework that has to be put to the service of sustainable development governance, and we are here to discuss how to do it in an optimal way. Regarding the general issue of green economy and where are the problems related to sustainable development worldwide, I have brought to you a slide which has been presented by John Talbot from the World Resources Institute about 1 month ago in New York at the UN General Assembly preparatory meeting for Rio, and I've been there by coincidence, and I like this overview very much because it's we have to look at the problems in a very systemic way. We will not save the earth by adding some new end-of-the-pipe technology somewhere or some other technological innovation or some taxes somewhere, but really we have to see that the whole socio-economic systems we are living in steer us somehow automatically towards catastrophe and to ecosystem degeneration and climate change, this kind of global problems. And so what are the market and institutional failures of the system that we are facing? These are externalities, under provision of public goods, missing markets, asymmetric information, inequitable access and governance, competitive barriers, inadequate progress indicators. You know, externalities means if a company uses natural resources, if it pollutes the environment, it does not pay for these costs adequately. The whole society has to cover the costs, but not the company who is making it, and this is a problem of market economy, how we have it. And also inadequate progress indicators. The gross domestic product is growing, but we see that our natural resources are going down, but still we think that we are wealthier now, but in fact we have a big problem by not measuring the decrease of wealth, which is somehow expressed in indicators that we are not aware of. And here are, from the economic perspective, some fixes, some suggestions how these problems could be solved. It is getting prices right, really, that the producer, the one who causes environmental damage, has also to pay for it, sustained capital investments, payments for ecosystem services, audits and certification, efficient property rights, fair trade agreements, indicators of well-being. And this is quite an ambitious program, and really it needs to be very systemic to function. But even this is, will not work, according to John Talbot from World Resources Institute, if it is regarded only as an economic policy issue. It will succeed only with concurrent changes outside the realm of economic policy. And you see, we have to get a societal consensus on a priority of on sustainable livelihoods for those most in need. We need this societal cohesion aspect in all our policies. We need a new participatory institutions to garner consensus on green economy strategies and oversee their implementation. So we need totally new ways of governance and participatory governance, so that there will be feedback loops provided by those who really see the changes, see the effects, and that they can help to steer us towards a sustainable development path. And we need a new paradigm of growth. And we need to recognize, reward, and encourage private voluntary actions, so that not only everything what is market economy based and that brings us money is regarded as something valuable and as a status symbol, but really that also voluntary services beyond market economy logics will be rewarded, because otherwise we don't have will have the resources to address global challenges. And regarding this new paradigm of growth, there is one approach that we are going to address with the Global Challenges Knowledge Center is global commons growth. And the plan that we have with this IAI is knowledge and philanthropy, also ethics-driven global civil society reform for global commons growth, our GlobCom initiative. And the idea is that somehow changing this. The initial saying was every individual must act as if the whole future of the world, of humanity itself, depends on him. That's a saying of Joseph Eisenbaum. And in the UN academic impact context, we could say every university must act as if the whole future of the world, of humanity itself, depends on it. Really, we need to develop a global societal responsibility. And here I have a photo from India that I've taken back in 1987 in Calcutta. With a quote of Mahatma Gandhi, there is enough on this earth to meet everyone's need, but not anybody's greed. And we really have to lower our demand of, from the natural environment and for consumerism, and look more how we can provide what is needed for everybody in global society, but also for future generations. And one way of transferring these resources from today's generation to next generation is the view on global commons. And we have developed in this context of our association, IAI, a global challenges system for knowledge and philanthropy driven global civil society reform, where there is a strong emphasis on knowledge with a global challenges question and answer system, global challenges actionpedia, an award information clearinghouse, global challenges studies and research centers network, partnership initiative, global challenges funding mechanism, and the global challenges song World Cup. It's also the idea that we need to develop the emotional dimension of global community to address effectively global challenges, and only if we regard one another as partners in this problem-solving community, then we will really have the mindset that will help us to address these problems. And one concrete initiative how to do it is to organize a Rio 2012 Youth Song World Cup. And we have had some discussions with Natalie and Ramo also over lunch today, that UN Academic Impact Students Initiative, Aspire, might be also an interesting partner for this. Further partners are also the United Nations Alliance of Civilizations and the Earth Charter, International Secretariat in Costa Rica. And regarding these global commons, we have to define wealth in new terms, and also these global commons in new terms. It's not only financial wealth that we have to share and to have make accessible to wider parts of global society and to future generations, but it's also natural resources, but it's also, to a certain extent, hard power. We need to build this positive momentum for global cooperation, which will also help future generations. And we need to develop open educational resources that will be accessible for everybody. We need to invest more in creative commons, in arts expressions that are available to everybody. More barter economy and other innovative forms of global commons need to be developed, and universities can play a very strong role in this to identify these most functional and necessary global commons and how to operationalize them, how to develop indicators so that the whole sustainable development concept can be brought together into really some indicators, as Undersecretary General Absaka has mentioned today. And normative basis for this kind of concerted responsibility, concerted effort to have more investment in global commons would be to adopt in Rio in 2012 a charter on shared social responsibility for global commons. And this should be adopted by civil society organizations, by academy, educational sector, UN Global Compact, to have the corporate sector involved, the UN system, national governments, regional and local authorities, youth organizations, and so that really we build a shared global vision which goes beyond generational lines, for example. That we really say, with this Charter on Shared Social Responsibility for Global Commons, we declare that we know and we commit ourselves to pass over to next generations more global commons than we have received. And there are some concrete activities how we want to implement this later on. There will be a stakeholder and academia scoping meeting at the annual meeting of Academic Council on the United Nations System in June this year in Waterloo, Ontario in Canada, where we will develop with global governance experts, international law experts, the outline of such a charter, how this could look like, what would be really feasible in the context of global governance. Then there will be also a workshop panel at the ACOS annual meeting about global commons, ethics and global governance innovations. Then in September there is a conference in Bonn, the UN Department for Public Information NGO conference, and we have been in contact with the program chair of this conference, Felix Dodds, and also with Maher Nasser, with the director of the outreach section of DPI, that we would like to have their contribution presenting this charter and getting feedback from the civil society sector whether it meets their expectations. And then there will be a launch of this Rio 2012 Youth Song World Cup in June, where we will also invite youth representatives from around the world to join us for a preparatory meeting in September. This will be here, and also with Academic Impact and the Global University Network for Innovation, we intend to make some kind of competition, Universities Global Challenges World Cup, on the subject of universities' role in building global intellectual commons, and what are global commons in the universities context, and how can we measure them, and what information and quality assurance systems do we need. And we plan to mobilize funds for 5 scholarships that we will finance 5 research programs, PhD studies on this subject, and those who will be voted as most relevant in this contest, they will get these scholarships and will be invited to Klagenfurt in the context of a series of events that we will have there in September. We will have there in the Alda also a big conference on investing in global commons, our shared global social responsibility. And there we want also to launch our Global Challenges Knowledge Center. And hopefully this Global Commons Charter will be adopted in Rio in 2012, and we are quite confident that really the Youth Song World Cup will be a big success and that the winner can perform at one of the events in Rio in 2012. And that's my presentation. You are welcome then to discuss it after. If there are any immediate questions regarding some understanding or so, we can do it now, but broader discussions will be after the next presentation. So if there are any immediate questions, was it clear? Okay, thank you very much. So then it is my